WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand Rising. Great dawning, Cleveland, Ohio. I am sitting here with, he is the king of hyperbole, the sultan of simile, the master of metaphor, and he is the grand poobah of alliteration and consonation. He is Orlando Watson.
Thank you. I'm flattered, my brother.
Well, I'm saying all that because I just listened to his brand new project, Corner Stories, 16 cuts, and each one of them is magnificent. There are some love stories in there. There are a lot of stories in there, and they're very important stories because they shape a narrative that needs to be shared. Before we started this interview, we talked about the lack of quality music in our popular music culture. And this is a subject that we talk about quite often on the show because I have many artists on the show. But I'm just blown away. I can't put it into words. I have some favorite poets. You know, I have a friend in Columbus named Scott Woods, and Scott, years ago I got connected with his poetry, and it left quite an impression on me. But after listening to your project, I'm moving another person into my favorite poet, Sly.
That's an honor.
And part of the reason for that is because I relate to the way you put things together. I mean, there are similarities in our styles, and listening to you inspires me to write and to speak. So this is important. And as I was listening to your album, I was just thinking about how there's such a great need for voices like that to be a part of our culture.
I appreciate that.
So tell us about this project. What was it birthed from?
Birthed from my need to create, man. It's not for me, it's not a hobby. It's not something I just enjoy doing. It's something I need to do. My mood alters when I'm not creating, ask my wife. So shout out to her for giving me the time and the space to really get into my zone and knock this project out. I started it in probably about 2018-ish. About 2018, I released my EP. It's a 5-track EP in 2017. And at the top of 2018, I opened for Lalah Hathaway when she came to Cleveland. And shortly after that, I was inspired, to say the least, to get moving on a full-length project. And I wasn't discouraged per se, but talking to different industry executives and musicians about putting together a full-length album, I got some pushback, if you will, on that. Oh man, don't nobody listen to albums no more. Ain't nobody worried about a body of work. Nobody sits with records anymore. And that's, I'm not the youngest or the oldest in the bunch, but I could say I grew up on records, man. I remember first being inspired to pick up a bass by listening to Lucy Collins' album, the Rubber Band, and Earth, Wind and Fire. It's an album, like cover to cover, and I'm also young enough to remember when the mixtape era was a thing, and it was kind of just about putting together nice tracks with no continuity on I was going to say album, but not really album, but a mixtape. So it's just like hot track number 1, hot track number 2, maybe skip 3, hot track number 4, but it's zero continuity. So just take it from each school of thought and put my own spin, my own flavor on it, and that's how you kind of got Corner Stories.
Well, one of the things that impressed me about it was the production value. That continuity that you spoke of. The second cut, I believe, has a contemporary gospel flavor to it. and then you go from contemporary gospel into a church setting with an authentically sounding pastor in the pulpit. Again, I'm just blown away. And as I listen to the voice, the term that I came up with, and I hope you're not offended by it, but it has a ghetto eloquence to it.
Hood rich.
Yeah.
Hood rich.
Yeah. Because it is a voice that is distinctively black, if you want to put it in those terms. But at the same time, there is a certain quality in it, you know, the diction, you know, the word choices. I mean, you know, some of the brothers that are laying down tracks in the hip hop genre may not be on that level in terms of their command of language. But you use language very creatively and you tie things together. And I think of somebody like Notorious B.I.G., who had that quality. And who could create certain imagery just based on his choice of words. And of course that kind of flowed over into artists that he was connected with. Right. I mean, Lil' Kim was spitting B.I.G. Yeah. Let's be real about it. Sure. Some of that stuff I know she didn't. Because you hear it and you say, oh, yeah, that's it. You know. But I'm getting back to, you know, the wordplay, it's there. So I really appreciate that about it. And then you work with some talented folks that added value to your project. You want to shout out your people?
Oh, man, it's a lot to shout out, but I did work with a lot of people, man. Chris Pattershaw produced 6 songs on this project: Avenue Blues, Sunrise, Woo, which is kind of like my tribute to RZA and the gang, Ghostface and all those guys. Huge fan of Wu-Tang. But yeah, Chris Pattershaw, Kyle Poole on drums, Russell Hall on bass, Dan Pappalardo, my friend, my brother, the only engineer I trust, Kevin Montgomery, Adam Booth, Cauliflower Audio in Cleveland. It's a lot of people who contributed greatly on this project. Earl Miner, who's also a phenomenal keyboardist and musician based in Cleveland. Jeremiah Napier, who kicks off the album. Track 1, Stella's Groove, him and Jerome Jennings lock it up on drum and bass. Jerome Jennings is from Cleveland Heights, Tiger alumni. He's been doing his thing up in New York probably about the past 15 years. And that's it. Jerome is my guy. We've, in recent years, we've been working together on a few things. And it's kind of funny how him working on my project has come full circle, because when I was probably 14 or 15 years old, I met Jerome at the East Cleveland Public Library. Shout out to Greg Reese. And he was playing with Sean Jones, the great Sean Jones out of Warren. And me and my friends, 2 of my friends, John Thomas, shout out to John Thomas, track 16, Cobra Flow, that's him on piano. Me, John Thomas, and Frank Walton, trumpet on Glory.
Aloysius.
Frank Aloysius, yeah. The 3 of us, we had a band back in the day called Solidified, S-O-U-L, Solidified. And we, man, just young cats, didn't really know what we was doing, but we just love music, and we love older musicians, and just like everything that we can pull from and take in, any club that we could sneak into, we were there. So we got to East Cleveland Public Library, and I saw Jerome Jennings, man, play for the first time in my life, man. At that point, I never heard drums approached like that. And at that point, I was playing drums myself. And I don't know if I was inspired to continue or discouraged to quit. You ever meet an artist like that? Like, man, they are talented. Like, should I keep going? Is it enough time to get to that level? That's how I kind of felt. It was like at a crossroad, man. So fast forward, 15 years later, to be working with Jerome Jennings, man, it's an honor and a pleasure.
Well, you know, folks could say that about your poetry, because after they hear you spit, it's like, okay, well, let me hang up my hat. Or it could be the opposite. And it's not necessarily about imitation.
Yeah.
It's about having your voice and expressing it the way that you do.
That's the key. That is definitely the key. I've had to learn that as well. Listening to artists such as MF Doom, Andre 3000, Jay-Z, Notorious B.I.G., even poets. We got Black Ice, who was one of my favorites, J. Ivy, Georgia Meade. It's a long list of deaf poets that I came up listening to in middle school and high school. But yeah, you pull from certain artists and you take what you pull from and you create your own thing. You put your own sauce on it. And that's what you get.
Well, speaking of sauce, we're going to listen to one of the cuts from your project, and then when we come back, we're going to tell folks how they can connect with it.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to hear part of it on the radio, it's another thing to hear the entire thing from start to finish, and maybe you'll be as geeked as I am about it. Trust me, you're going to love it. We're going to be back with more Orlando Watson right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burt Belcar community radio station. We'll be back after poetry and these PSAs. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, yo, Brad, my mic on? D. All praise be to the Most High. Crime sky high, but we stay fly. The journalists asking me to testify, but they just want to vilify the revolution televised.
Storefront churches sold salvation by the boatload and cast a conviction to convince us of hell. Hope in our adolescent hearts held the cross of Christ closely, while clergy crafted us believers to stuff into Sunday service, where prosperity sermons seem to suit our pastors' pockets and pad black hope with charismatic monologues and whatnot. So we opt to learn the golden rule by 5 before we were ever afforded the foresight to comprehend how recess became recidivism so suddenly. Playpens began to resemble penitentiaries without warning, as if detention determined warrants and caused the warden to cages accordingly. Holding cells held whiners who fought to find their freedom on the front steps of underfunded fellowships, fixed next to liquor stores nestled in the nooks of our neighborhood. Nevertheless, we tossed 10% of our income into wicker baskets, believing our worries were weaved to worship while we gave goods without grudge or necessity. Simply seeking to salvage our tattered habitats with hand-me-down doctrine we adopted after Europeans adopted our faith for profit.
They said a change going on, still waiting on it to happen. All praise be to the Most High. Crimes got high, but we stay fly. Journalists asking me to testify, but they just want to vilify revolution televised.
They prayed that we'd squander every single summer on corners dedicated to cold cash and crack that impacted black families from coast to coast. See, we watch pimps parade a handful of hoes like barbecue grippos and grab chicks like greasy chips we chew on choice molars. Of course, this overexposure molded our perception of women, while porn erected our expectations of relations and positioned us to partake in feline pie, intended and set aside for committed consumption, but we munched as much as possible. Proving peer pressure prompted our participation by the plateful. We arrested the innocents with coitus, convincing countless queens that we protect and serve their sanctity. But our oath was equally as crooked as the cops that profiled our pigment for profit.
Oh, what have we become? Can we find another way? Yet we always say we shall overcome, but when will someday come away?
Police presume that our porches full of cookies and peaches transported pockets full of porch pollen to people. That Clinton sentenced the super predators with superpowers. But we were only scrumptious supper to a sick system that sought to suck our strength from the onset. And somehow, our consciousness simmered in assaults that called for action. Whenever cops cornered us about color-coded corner culture, before gangs began to understand that our color was the scheme all along. Gun-governed ghettos guided our guilt to get good at being bad by the badge. But the badges beat us to the punch to play stop and frisk for fun. Even outside of assigned jurisdictions, precincts pressed their knees into our necks and left us with sentences heavier than our hearts. However, we've learned to adjust to every injustice that jams us up. on this boulevard of broken dreams.
Still we always say we shall overcome. But when will Sunday come our way?
Hi, this is Ken Hawkins.
Hi, this is Pinky.
This is T.C. Lewis.
This is Shantae Chappers.
This is Reggie Hayman.
This is Bill Silverby Richards. If you're not listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, you're not in the mix. I'm Silverby, crank it up.
24 hours of golden.
Good morning, Saints, and welcome to Grown Folks Fellowship, located on the historic corner of 69th and Consent, where we believe that Christ is the only safe word to save you, amen. I am the Right Reverend Seven, celebrating 30 years of ministry in this magnificent edifice today, but that's not the sole focus of this Sunday service, amen. See, because we have a rather special guest joining us on this joyous Mother's Day morning to deliver a word of encouragement and Kama Sutra, especially for the aunties of this beloved ministry. Now, the next A selection is arguably rated R, but please do not be alarmed, because I've screened the content and it's clean as collard greens and chitterlings, amen. But the way this particular selection addresses food might heighten your appetite, if you will. Now, I don't want to give away all of the good news too soon and spoil the spread, but I must say that his wife wrote me a little note which reads like this. I hereby rebuke the use of photo flash focus record. Furthermore, there shall be no meet, no greets, autographs, or small talk after my spouse blesses this here house, lest you might lose your life. What devil's hell did I just read? I see Mother Watson wants all the smoke. Anyhow, let us receive the gift that flows from the anointing of this young brother. So, where was that? Coming in his own way, put your hands together for Orlando Watson. Amen. Yes, Lord.
We're back with Orlando Watson on Open Door with Vince Robinson. You have been listening to excerpts from his project, Corner Stories. It is, as they say in the hood, it's off the chain. Fire is lit. It's lit. Whatever you want to say, whatever hyperbole you want to attach to it, that's what it is. Do what you can to get it, and how can they get it?
It's literally everywhere. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Bandcamp.com is where I would much appreciate if you purchased it from. Bandcamp. I also have physical CDs that'll be available. So if you see me out in the streets, holler at your boy. I'll hook you up. I'll sign for you, whatever you want to do, pictures, all of that.
I'm going to buy a CD from him. I hope you got one in the car.
I don't. I got you. I'll make a trip back here.
Okay.
And deliver it.
Yeah, because I want to put that in my CD changer. You know, my car is so old I don't have an aux in.
Okay, no
so
okay.
You know, and you know, I'm a little longer too, so we got workarounds for that. You know, they have adapters that you can plug into the cassette deck, and then put the 8-inch plug into the headphone jack, and you know,
my first car, I had the cassette adapter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I have an 07, 08, I can't remember. But it's an older car, but it's got the 6-disc CD changer. It's got a cassette player in it. Because I got all those concert tapes that I recorded back in the day, like James Brown, Luther Vandross, and Aretha Franklin, and other folks. So
shout out to the Queen.
Yeah, so, you know, I reminisce quite often. But, yeah, so it's a great project. Talk about your process for creating, both poetically and musically.
All right, that's a layered conversation and a bit to unpack. When I'm creating, I often write without music. That's just my roots as a poet, a spoken word artist. But I'm always hearing music in my head. And like I mentioned earlier, I grew up playing drums. My grandfather had a church out in Painesville, Ohio for 40, 50 some odd years. So I was always around music. My mom, who is on Mama Knows voicemail, she called that for voicemail. She plays organ. My aunt plays piano. My other aunt sings. My dad, everybody on my dad's side sings, plays, entertains of some sort. So, but my process is really rooted in just getting into a clean, quiet environment and just letting the lyrics lead. That's kind of how I create my music. I come up with a prompt or a concept, and I'll take that to a producer who I'll co-produce a track with and be like, this is what I'm hearing in my head. How can we flesh this out? Very seldom do I receive music first and then, you know. So yeah, that's part of my process. I'm doing a little more of that now. You could hear me on Woo and Lifespan, to where it's like hip hop is like bona fide rapping, to where I'll receive a track and then I write to it. But even that, man, a lot of times when I'm writing raps, I'm still writing a cappella. You know, I'm developing the cadence and the rhythm in my head before I hear any music. So it's maybe weird, but
okay. And you had some additional vocals by other artists on the project. Were they contributing things that they wrote, or were they interpreting things that you wrote?
Let's see. I wrote, I would say 97% of the lyrics on this project. My homegirl, background specialist, vocal arranging specialist, Chandra Ray. She wrote Layla's Interlude, which is a section or derivative of Layla's Joint, which I released in 2018 after opening for Lalah Hathaway. So she wrote that vamp, and we took that vamp from the single and put that on the project. The only other thing that was written by another artist on this project was Vuyo Sotashe, who wrote the third section of Avenue Blues. And that song is featuring Vuyo Sotashe and Frank West. Frank West was also from Cleveland, and he was on The Voice. I think it was Team J. Hud, Jennifer Hudson. So, but yeah, man, most of everything that you hear on a piece of music or anything that I produce, I wrote and arranged to some extent. So.
Okay. You mentioned Lalah Hathaway. I would be remiss if I didn't mention your connection to the Tri-C Jazz Fest. And the beauty of it is that you have relationships and connections to folks who are in the business. But at the same time, you're an artist, which is not something that you can say about everybody that's in administrative capacities within the context of a jazz festival. Do you want to talk about what it was like to work with Lalah?
Yeah, Lalah, nothing but good vibes, good energy. I vividly remember receiving that call. I was actually on tour with Dominic Farinacci, another Cleveland-born and bred artist, trumpeter. And we were in New York City touring a production that he has called Modern Warrior Live. And highly encourage anybody who's been impacted or affected by military life, PTSD, to check that project out. But we were in New York City, and he sent me on a mission to go somewhere. And on the way back, I was in a taxi cab, and I got a DM from Lalah's management, and they were like, "Hey, like she just came across your video. She wants you to open for her in Cleveland." I was like the Lalah Hathaway? Man, I went berserk in that taxi cab. I'll never forget that. So as soon as I got back to the theater where we performed, I told all the homies, I'm like, y'all, listen, I'm open for Lalah Hathaway. We need to put together a show as soon as we get back to Cleveland. We had like 2 weeks, man. So I had to put together like a 30-minute set in like 2 weeks from scratch. So, but Lalah, man, she was great. She was a true sweetheart. She really took care of us that night, and forever grateful. Always cherish that.
Yeah, some folks are sleeping on Lalah.
I don't know why,
but
multiple ground. I think she at number 5 or 6. 5 time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she's working on number 6.
Yeah, everybody's fixated on Beyonce. But
Beyonce's great.
Yeah, she's great. I'm not gonna say anything away from Beyonce, but Lalah did a joint on a Snarky Puppy release.
Family dinner joint.
And
all right.
She actually
harmonized with herself.
Yeah. How do you sing a chord as a vocalist?
No, man. Lalah is an alien. She's one of one.
Wow, that just. And the performance that you did, was it a Jazz Fest?
No, it had nothing to do. I wasn't even working with Jazz Fest at that moment. That was her tour. She dropped her album Honestly, and she was going on Honestly tour. So she had held a contest on social media called hashtag I Went Open for Lalah, and I submitted with my hashtag, posted a couple of videos, and that's how that came about.
All right.
Yeah.
You've also done some work with Marquis Hill.
Yeah, Marquis. Marquis is the homie. Funny story how we met. He came through Cleveland at the Bob Stop, I want to say 2019. And I was leaving a rehearsal for a performance at Jazz Fest. And I had just missed his show. I pulled up at the Bob Stop. He was getting off the stage. And I was like, man, I'm sorry I missed your set. But we exchanged numbers. We clicked instantly. And we've been keeping in touch. And he was supposed to be on this record, but his schedule and everything didn't allow him to submit the tracks in time. But yeah, we have some stuff that's coming up in the works, and he was just here in Cleveland for the Tri-C Jazz Fest that we had at Kane Park, and impromptu he called me out on stage, and I whipped something up real quick, and it was a vibe. It was a vibe.
I was witness to that.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I captured it with my camera. So, it's a moment that will live in perpetuity.
I gotta see them shots,
Yes, man. Yes, sir. You have no idea how many pictures I took that day. You may have seen 1 or 2. But that was a fantastic performance, and it was just great to have the spoken word acknowledged in Tri-C's Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
They have done it every once in a while. I have a group called the Jazz Poets. Jazz Poets, come on, y'all. Since 1997. Okay.
Call your boy.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was great to see you. And then you did another performance with a huge cadre of Cleveland musicians. Evelyn Wright was one of them. Yes. Dominic Farinacci was on stage. Was Ernie Cribden was on stage?
Jerome Jennings, Steve Enos, Gabe Jones, Walter Barnes, Jackie Warren, Chris Coles. I feel like I'm missing one or two people.
You're missing Lafayette Carthon.
The Lafayette Carthon.
The Lafayette.
Reverend Dr. Lafayette.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah, he did a solo piece that night. You know.
Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
I believe it was Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
Bring you to tears, man. That's another alien.
Yeah.
Lafayette, Layla. Aliens, man.
He's one of those cats.
Yeah.
When you watch or hear him play, that's when you want to hang up the keys and say, okay,
how can I ever obtain?
I just appreciate and I keep practicing.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Sure.
We're going to go to another one of the cuts on your project, but I just have to ask you that question. I can't remember. Blame it on my brain. It was either Keturah or Khadijah.
Keturah.
Did Keturah ever get that message, or was it deleted before she got it?
She got it. She deleted it.
Okay. All right. Say no more.
Part 2.
I got to hear part 2, man, because it was one of those confessional type messages.
Apology, confession.
You know. But what some sisters tend to do is they put you in the grave and then they put the dirt over it and they never go back.
Yeah. But you know, closure. And that might be best for you at that time in your life. You know?
Yeah.
You don't always call for a return phone call. You know.
Right.
Just get it off your chest. The ball's in your court now.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of look at that piece, hindsight.
Right.
Yeah.
You write it on a piece of paper and then you toss it in the lake and then you move on.
Let's go.
We're going to listen to more of this great project, Corner Stories, with my man, Orlando Watson, right here on 95.9 FM, WOVU. We'll be back after this.
Since 1997, St. Luke's Foundation has awarded millions of dollars each year to positive, impactful organizations that serve you and your community. And now it's time to put the money where your mouth is. So we're introducing Lift Every Voice, a platform created to hear directly from you. We want to know what's important to you and what's important for your community, so St. Luke's Foundation can put all these millions in all the right places. And sharing your voice is easy to do. Go to lev216.org and sign up for the Lift Every Voice email and text updates. It's completely anonymous and totally free. And your voice will impact where, why, and how St. Luke's Foundation spreads that monetary love. Head over to lev216.org and sign up now to help lift every voice in our community. This message is brought to you by St. Luke's Foundation and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Postponed at the Austin airport, expecting your Texas. Scheduling sex and seeking babysitters to watch the sun so we can move beneath the moon and starting our own flick. So you send pics meant to tie me over. Repurposing emojis that toy with my emotions, solely devoted to plant eggplants and peaches in a text until our thread feels more like a market. And I feel God in your garden. Whenever you pardon my mistakes with parted legs, which lead me to still waters that still stir my spirit. Stilettos hold your golden calves and call for worship. So I praise the pavement that you parade on, fully persuaded.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Orlando Watson. We've been listening to a fantastic project, Corner Stories. It's available on all the music sharing platforms, but there's also a Bandcamp website that you can go to so that he gets the benefit of your dollars. Because you can listen to it on Spotify for free, and then you might make a fraction of a penny per
I think it's like 0.0007 or something crazy. It's not good, man. Yeah. But people are in court trying to get artists and producers they're just due for all of the dollars and all of the sweat equity we put into this art. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's this thing called NFTs,
I'm hip, man. You want to go down that road?
Non-fungible tokens. Cleveland, the rest of the world, y'all got to wake up. If you're an artist, you got to be looking at non-fungible tokens right now. So let's go down that road.
Yeah, I thought about it. I thought about it for this project. I'll probably do it with the next. So I'm a little bit more educated on it. I kind of just got hip about 4 months ago. And but it's something that's definitely piqued my interest and something I want to do, because I'm all about collectibles and authentication and things like that. So to have a piece of art that can't lose value, gain value, smart contracts, and still receive a piece of the token for a lifetime, like it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea.
Yes. And there are artists here in Cleveland who are getting that message. I know Mr. Soul has an NFT.
Really?
Yeah, he's a graphic artist. So it's a perfect fit for him.
Yeah.
He's the one person that I know that I can say has one. I'm actually involved in a platform that involves cryptocurrency in which you can create an NFT.
Really?
I'm not as versed up on it as I want to be, but I would like to see a point in time in this city where folks can get together and explore what they are and what the possibilities are, because artists have been exploited for such a long time, particularly recording artists.
Yeah.
You know, there's...
Oh
yeah, yeah. You know, so you got a nice car, but you don't have any money in the bank.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, so NFTs give artists an opportunity to be in the driver's seat for their projects and get their just
control their destiny.
Yeah, for what they do. So beautiful. In terms of Tri-C, have you thought about, what may be happening next year? Can you give us any advance?
I can't.
It's confidential. All right.
Yeah, it's we have big things in store. As what is public information is that our president, the great Dr. Johnson, Alex Johnson, is retiring. So we'll be celebrating Dr. Johnson this year. So make sure you're there, my brother.
Yeah. Well, I've been covering the Tri-C Jazz Festival since 1991.
91, that is the year I was born, my brother.
Okay.
30 on the dot.
Trying to make me feel old. 30 years old.
30.
Okay. Well, there's a maturity that goes along with that. So I would have no guess in terms of your age, but I'm definitely impressed and grateful that you would even take the time to spend this time with me.
This is an honor for me.
Yeah.
Truly.
So let's talk about what's good on the project for you. I know sometimes it's difficult for you to identify one thing that you like more than another, but are there any cuts on your project that you really feel good about?
Yep. First one that comes to mind is COVID Flow, track 16, featuring John Thomas. Another one is Time, featuring Chanel Johns. That is the first song that I recorded as a rap, and it kind of just turned out well. It's kind of an experiment, but I think that song is, to me, maybe I'm biased, but it feels timeless because it's about loss and just like the process of grieving and bereavement and scrounging up dollars and cents to bury your loved ones, or that whole thing, and maybe battling alcoholism and drug abuse and trying to cope with the loss of loved ones. So I feel like that's something, especially in this, I don't know when the pandemic is going to end, but we sitting here without masks right now, so in some sense of the word, it kind of feels like it's over, but it's not. We just got this Omicron variant, Delta variant, and things like that. So it's still going on. People are still losing loved ones left and right. Not just the COVID, but cancer, HIV. It's so much out there, man. It's old age. Both of my grandparents just, matter of fact, this past Saturday, my grandfather, we just had his funeral, and like a month before that, my grandmother passed. So I just lost 2 loved ones within the past 30 to 45 days. But I'm not alone. I know we are going through, loss. And I think that's what's special about the project. You kind of start, it takes you from love through lost. It's kind of like the full gamut of life. And that's what I like about this project.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about it too, because when you listen to a lot of the popular music today, there's a certain level of simplicity in it. It's bass, sometimes it's trap rhythms and that type of thing, but you have managed to cross a number of genres within one project with a great level of production value, and then it's really about the stories that you're telling. So I really do think that Corner Stories was the right title for it. It's extremely relatable. It doesn't matter what your walk in life is. You can listen to something on this and relate to it, whether it be that relationship that didn't go where you wanted it to go, or somebody struggling with addiction. And then I really, really enjoyed that church piece.
You really, for real? That's what's up, man.
Where did that come from? Because it's got this comedic flavor to it.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Man, I have a lot, not to sound like crazy or anything, but I have a lot of voices in my head. And when I'm in the car, I often experiment and just like talk to myself and scream and just get stuff out when my wife isn't around, so she doesn't, call the authorities on me and think I need to be committed to the same asylum. But that's just one of, I call him Reverend 7. So that's just like this preacher that just kind of like lives within me. But I come from a long line of orators. My grandfather, my mom was a preacher, my father, I got cousins. So I've always heard that tone, around the house and in the pulpit, growing up in church, like a lot of us, start off in. So that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm curious about is your relationship with your wife. I mean, she's hearing you do these poems, and there's innuendo, there's wordplay. I caught a few bombs. And I'm like, well, who is he talking to, and what's she going to think about what he's saying to her? How does she deal with that?
Man, we've been together since 2009. We met in college. I was 18 and she was going on 21. And I think she's just kind of gotten used to it. She just kind of knows my creative process and how I intersect reality with imagination. And some stuff is true, some stuff is a little fabricated, but I think that's the mark of a great artist, to make you feel whatever I present.
The City of Cleveland's Division of EMS is currently accepting applications for paramedics. Be on the front lines helping your community. Career advancement, a competitive salary, great benefits, and job security are waiting for you. Call 216-623-5233 to speak with the recruitment team now, or go to www.governmentjobs.com/careers/Cleveland. Apply today and begin your pathway to a great medical career. The greatest privilege is the opportunity to serve others, and the City of Cleveland wants you to join the team. Begin your EMS career today. Go to www.governmentjobs.com/careers/Cleveland. Call 216-623-5233 to speak with the recruitment team. This message is brought to you by the City of Cleveland, Division of EMS, and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, the Wordsmith Supreme, the Sultan of Simile, my man.
That's the one right there.
Yeah.
Sultan of Simile.
And those are some devices that you rely on, but they're just so effective because they conjure up imagery. When you said clean as collard greens and chitlins, that's when I hit the floor.
You really like that skit, man. I like that.
Yeah.
I do like that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate your appreciation, my brother. artist to artist, lyricist to lyricist. It means a lot to me when not only people like listen to your music, download it, stream it, so you get your half of a penny or whatever. But when they actually like listen and take in what you're saying, people like text me, hey brother, when you said such, that's what really, I was like, oh man, you was like listening, you know. 'Cause that's how I listen to artists and music as well. From, like I said, the MF Dooms, Andre 3000, Jay-Z's, to friends around town who made music. I'll be like trying to zone in on what you're saying in the heart of the matter. So that really, really means a lot to me that you are tuned in like that.
Oh yeah. Well, it's about the words, you know. And these days, an artist is not so much about their talent; it's about who they are. Mm-hmm. You know.
That's
so
true.
And it's really sad.
That's true. Yep.
Because you have, I don't want to demean anyone, but there are many folks who are just mediocre in terms of their talent. Mm-hmm. But they have image, and because they have image,
and profile.
Yeah, and so they have an ability to influence.
Yep.
And their popularity is based on their ability to influence people to wear things or to do things, and it's not necessarily about what they have to say.
Sure.
You know, it's like music in general. You know, when a pianist starts playing, for some people it's an invitation to conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, what they're not really acknowledging is the fact that when this person is playing piano, they're saying something with every finger that taps a key. Yeah. Every note has meaning. You know, and you miss that. I was watching a performance of a group in Pittsburgh, and trying to remember the song that they were playing. The bassist sounded a little bit like Marcus Miller, which really caught my attention. It was People Make the World Go Round. Okay. It's a song that I played. So I'm listening to it to see how they do it. But the person who shot this video, first of all, they were shooting in portrait mode, which just rankles my nerves. Because you're shooting a stage that has a horizontal orientation, but you're shooting it in a vertical orientation. You're cutting folks off, and then it's real herky-jerky. But that's another rabbit hole. But anyway, it was really about the way this song was interpreted that I could appreciate. But then when he panned the room, people were eating and talking, and these cats are on stage playing their hearts out. And the music is just, you want to take in every aspect of it. And you can't do that if you're talking to somebody. It's supposed to be a listening experience. And that's one of the disrespectful things that happens within the context of musical performances in general. If you go to a concert at Playhouse Square, Tri-C Jazz Fest, it's kind of understood that you're supposed to be listening to the music, and you're not talking, you know. I'll never forget, at a concert at Nightown, which is one of the nation's premier jazz venues, Buster Williams is playing, and bass solos are really quiet, especially if it's an upright bass. And there's these people sitting at a table, and they're just having a party, and he looks at them, he spoke to them. You know, he had to stop what he was doing to address these folks who were disrespecting him. So yeah, that's one of the frustrations of being an artist and being a pianist too, because, you know. But anyway, the voice, however, has an ability to command attention. Because people relate to words. And so when you put those words together, I would hope that they were listening because you had something to tell them. What are the subjects that resonate most with you in terms of being able to tell stories that are related to them? If there was something beyond everything else that you needed to communicate, what would you say that would be?
Blackness, identity. More recently, parenthood. Spoke about that on Sunrise. My son is featured on that. Social equality. Use that term very, very loosely. But those things resonate with me. Faith. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned your son. I wanted to ask you earlier, how did becoming a father change you?
Man, it's almost hard to put into words. It put a fire underneath me to really be on my P's and Q's as a husband, first and foremost. Because I feel like the best way to be a father, in the context of marriage, of course, the best way to be a father is to model how to treat the soul of the woman who gave birth to your seed. So I feel like if that's not on point, fatherhood may be a uphill, an even steeper uphill, climb. So I'm just really trying to get my communication and my boundaries in order to model the best marriage that I can at the moment. It changed me in the sense of my creativity and my artistry, my approach to what I talk about, how I talk about it. We kind of touched on my process earlier, and you talk about like how cleverly I use and put together words. Some of that stems from not because I'm like holier than thou or anything like that, but I think longevity. So at 30, I'm thinking like in 30 years from now, when Corner Stories is being played, how would I feel as a 60, 65-year-old man hearing what I said at 30? And even if I'm not in the most mature place that I will be, hopefully I can continue to evolve in the next 30, 40 years, I still want to be able to look back at my videos or listen to my music and be able to stand on what I said 30 years ago. So I don't call women out of their names in my music or anything like that, because 30 years from now, hopefully, that wouldn't be something I could look back on and be proud of, especially being married and having a wife who's giving birth to my kids and things like that. So I just think like long term, like how will this add up and how will this stand the test of time? So no shade or no knock to anybody who chooses that path of creativity, if you will, or approach to lyrics and lyricism and production, but it's just like a personal conviction, if you will, so I just try to watch what I say, but still maybe convey the same message, but how, so.
Well, there are certain things about things that you have put together that are timeless. If we go back to that gospel flavored piece and that skit, I'm long enough in the tooth to go back to being a child in a church and hearing that. And you can go to church today and hear that. And I would venture to say, if we're still allowed to go to church 30 years from now.
I don't know, man. Looking a little grim.
I don't know. It might be a burden in church. So when he says, turn to your neighbor.
Turn to me. Looking at the avatar.
Oh, man. It's crazy to think that that's where we're headed, but that's amazing. Okay. So it is quite a project. I think we're going to utilize the time that we have remaining to listen to another one of your cuts.
Things fall apart. We can't change who we are. Friends come and go, but we know we've got a life.
Your relatives ruffled your feathers, but you flew beautifully anyhow, despite the devilish disavow conjured by first cousins who spite your demeanor. I mean ya. Your grace is taken for granted, but you still manage to maneuver despite the damage that Pentecost your heart to loss. You bore a cross without the Calvary to support your claim. I'm saying that I witness your resentment but lack sufficient attention to tend to ill offenses you mentioned. My vision's so vivid, I'm sort of living in reverse. Wishing I could return the hurt and cast a curse like voodoo at Who's Who. Soon as our families acted boo-boo, copping squats to boycott the holy matrimony and defecate on our devotion. But that fecal didn't matter much to us. We still dealt the royal flush because
things fall apart. We can't change who we are. Friends come and go, but we know that we've got our love. We've got our love. Things fall apart, yeah. We can't change who we are. Friends come and go, but we know that we've got our love.
we decided to collide, take flight to new heights and find some heaven on earth to serve peace to mind. Kinda, sorta. Sort in disorder whenever rumors ordered our attention to tend to friends who prioritize our...
If you like to, can you talk about what you're working on now?
Yeah, I can talk about what I'm working on now. As far as musical projects are concerned, I'm already 2 projects out. So I have the titles, I have most of the projects written. It's just a matter of finding the right production. But the concepts are there. So I have 2 projects already in the can. Things that I could talk about that are coming up. I got dates for Chris Cole's Nine Lives project. Have you seen it or heard of it? Know anything about it?
No, I don't.
Do you know who Chris Cole's is?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Check out his Nine Lives project. I got a CD. I might pass it on to you. But Chris Cole's Nine Lives project. It's about the 2015 church shootings in Charleston, South Carolina. I really don't like to mention the killer's name. Give him any credit for that, but it's a beautiful musical suite. I'm a part of that. I'm doing some work with Braxton Cook at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in May, alongside Sean Jones and Terry Lynn Carrington. So a few things I'm working on. New York as well. So I'll be busy. I have my biggest project to be here in 2 weeks. My baby girl. My wife will be giving me my second child, so yeah, right after Christmas. So that'll be the big haul. But those a few.
Well, it's really heartwarming to just hear you speak so glowingly about being a father and being responsible too. Because that kind of contradicts the narrative. They always look at a black man as an absent father. Having had a father who was present in my life at all times, and knowing that it is not an anomaly. There are plenty of black fathers out there that are responsible and loving, caring, and nurturing in terms of their relationships with their wives. But one would have you believe that we don't exist.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for holding that standard to such a high extent. We're going to look forward to the projects that you have coming forward.
I'll keep you in the loop.
All right, and hopefully one of them will be attached to an NFT.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'm working on that for sure.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us on Open Door with Vince Robinson, and I'd also like to thank you for listening and watching, because this will be on YouTube at some point. Thanks for being with us. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day.
For sure.
Peace.